Why do we need this system thinking model? This is because we need to know as to how do we behave in a world that is utterly complex. So this is a system which helps us to make strategic decisions. The dynamics of system thinking is about understanding the complexity first, identify the root cause, what do we do when such complexity arises, and managers need this to have informed decisions. System Systems thinking is a way to understand how various components at the same time interact with each other and impact each other, and there are various ways they can impact each other to some extent or a great extent. We cannot even say positively or negatively. So it is in various ways it can impact, and how they contribute to each facet, each component at that time to behave, what will be their functionality, how it will operate. And it is a, you can say, multi-dimensional environment it creates. Do we not in our everyday's life face such kind of situation? Do we not get complex in our decision making? It becomes so complex that we lose our way unless we define and anticipate how those eventualities will be. All of us know this is an interconnected world. So, if we take the example of weather change, and why at all we are talking so much about containing carbon footprint, reducing it in the context of farming or sustainable farming, can we do it uh, when there is erratic rainfall and others? Will the system thinking work in this? Let us see. It is all giving a lot of thought to our day-to-day lives, day-to-day problems. Sustainable farming, as you know, the entire ecosystem depends on, if we talk in terms of boundaries, then it is about environments, elements, government schemes, purpose of it, how the deliverance happens, and in the context of farming, it is natural environment, what it is, and who the implementers are. Naturally, the uh, farming community, and then the erratic rainfall and our resources, whatever is available to us, and whatever information. There are a lot of systems, satellite system, with which we can get this information. So the precision farming, there is a new concept called precision farming, with which we can say we can take decision at the moment of the incident. So whether we can do that, can we have improved decision making? What kind of weather patterns will lead to a systemic change of the usual crop pattern? What are the soil qualities which will support such kind of a crop? What is the community culture? Whether the labor will be available, the farmers will be invested in those kind of timeline that particular crop change requires, and the local environment which plays a significant role in defining boundaries and how much change we can bring into our farming practices is all dependent on the local resources that we have at a particular time and the number of crops. We ideally we would like to have three crops in an environment, but uh, um, do we can we have those kind of resources, the soil quality, and the community culture to sustain it? For example, I was doing this medicinal plant which is called Safed Musli, and there was this double month that is calculated in Indian culture, which is called um, uh, the double months of a particular month that becomes 1 month extra because of the lunar cycle and the solar cycle. There is a adjustment because of which every 3 4 years there is an additional month which gets adjusted, and that particular month it was the rainy season. So the rainy season would have come late because of that particular adjustment. And the farmers there were saying rain would come late. I kept on telling them that rain doesn't depend on the adjustment of the time period. It will come on its own time. They didn't listen to me. So the culture also is a is an impediment in your decision making. So we need to take all those critical inputs for sustainable farming. It is farming family, what their agriculture uh, uh, knowledge and their cultural knowledge and their deep rooted thought process and belief system, the labor availability, uh, and the seeds that is available, the natural resources, all these things are critical for sustainable farming. As I said, because the crop was not invested in time, it becomes useless for medical purpose. Now it becomes a normal crop or any other crop if it is not utilized for a medicinal purpose. It becomes food, and food is cheaper, as you know. And so, how if you do not anticipate such kind of impediments in your entire farming cycle, then this a sustainable crop year would be difficult, which means there has to be a lot of collaboration and deep understanding, prior discussion, and the time cycle determination has to be there. So each person, because in rural India the farming family means the husband, the wife, all of them with their opinion they come together, and that is how sustainable farming happens. So if we don't understand those critical outputs that has to be um, there, then the communication doesn't happen in a time. The innovations that is in our mind, it doesn't get adopted by the farming families as it is. It has to be discussed, and this has to be ingrained, and this has to be uh, rehearsed in those farming communities about what kind of things are to be expected, because in such huge communities one person cannot dictate the entire thing, even if the entire plan is based on pure intent. So purpose and goal of sustainable farming is uh, supporting the family, right? And so the family, and while doing so, it has to be preserving the environment. Now, the feedback loop, it can come with lot of risks because mm, innovation in India in a farming setup can be a costly affair if the farmers are not taken into confidence, and that is a real learning for me when I was implementing this. Crop health is another thing. We were trying to irrigate that area where electricity was not available, and we had to depend on diesel to irrigate, to make the pump run. It was a costly affair. So that money needed to be invested when the income from that crop has not yet come. So these are the buffer money, buffer budget that has to be allocated and assigned, and it went from my own purse because it was not properly planned. And you cannot anticipate. In every process, you need to have this kind of supportive system. Now, one of my seniors told me that I should have gone for a small area of cultivation if I wanted to do so. Actually, it was a small area. It was not a big area that we were cultivating. It was just 2.5 acres of land that we were doing. But since it was a very costly crop, the investment was huge. And the worst case output harvest would have more than compensating the investment. It would have been at least thrice the amount of investment. So it was a no risk crop when I started. But as I said, when there is a high risk crop, don't go for that much investment as well. If it is a high priced, high valued crop, then the investment has to be within limit. I invested 1 lakh. It could have been done in 10,000. But you know, if it is not at least 1 acre, how can you see the output? So it is a complex system of decision making. How much to invest and how to see the result. And if it was not substantial, it wouldn't have made any impact on the decision making of other farmers. But again, the the farmer who was in charge, that farmer needed to have this understanding of uh, the weather, how to deal with it. It was culture plus the shortage of labor plus the money that was required to hire that labor to cut and harvest that crop was in the stake, which made him delay the decision. So yes, it is a continuous learning, whether it is a success or a failure. From each step that you take in the adaptation of new crop or new innovation in farming in rural India, it takes a lot of learning, and all those kind of learning, it happens collectively, and that is how people get transformed. It was not the first innovation that I did there. It was one of multiple innovations, but still it required some kind of adaptation at each level. of operation. And that was a big learning for me. And it is so risky that the resilience required had to be multifold on my part as the initiator. But as you know, innovation is not a silo game. It has to include all the stakeholders in the community farming. So that is how we uh, deal with this uh, systemic thinking, system of thinking model, and the complexity of it gets addressed in such a kind of model in terms of the setting the boundaries, the relationships, the input, output, emergency situations, and all. And that is why it also is helpful in diagnosing a problem, a situation right now, whether to take that decision. It is a decision making process as well. So, leaders need this kind of understanding about multiple components against which to take one decision. So, thank you for watching this and hope you will take as in this example that I have taken is the case of a rural family who needed to make multiple choices against the uh, variable weather, the climatic conditions, the soil quality, the inputs that they have, their own adoption, their own culture, understanding, all that. So, thank you.